Our Yumkasaur is no longer a youngling. It has matured and its belly fattened. It's soon time for its daily feast. Let us see what prey it catches today. So yes, we are playing the Yumkasaurs again today. Now you might wonder, what am I up to? Well, if you have happened to see my previous Yumkasaurs video, I entertained the idea of playing Yumkasaurs as an off-field or late-game carry. Because as you know, the most popular Yumkasaurs decks when it was released were, Emily Burning with Yumkasaurs. Everyone knows that. So, what is this deck about? Actually, let's actually continue about that last one a little. The Emily Burning versions, summons with Yumkasaurs, what those decks were about were simply just do a bit of summon setup and then go to Yumkasaurs and Yumkasaurs attacks and you just feed it and it never dies. This deck instead relies on Yoimiya and Yelan to early game do a bunch of damage, and late game you have Yumkasaurs to take out the last bit of HP the opponent team has left. So instead of, hash brown and whatever cards, we are using the cheap Sweet Madames, this time glittering gemstones. In my last Yumkasaurus video, after my last Yumkasaurus video, I did realize that it is in fact the best food card to use with the Yumkasaurus because it's a guaranteed HP increase. But we are using cards such as Sweet Madame and the Mystic Soup, Glittering Gemstones, everything that costs 1 or 0 dice to play, so that we can play them early in the game without worry. For example, Sweet Madame, late game you can use it for quick HP on Yumkasaurs, or you can play it early game to keep Yoimiya or Yelan alive a little while longer, like I think I do in this game. So yeah, in the past I said it was a perfectly fine idea, and this video is about me showcasing that idea. So yeah, you can see this is very much Yoimiya, Yelan, Riotsley, except instead of Riotsley we have Yumkasaurs, and the whole point of this deck: grind for Yoimiya burst, go to Yelan, do Yelan things, and when your both characters are dead or you feel like it, go to Yumkasaurs and Yumkasaurs finishes the game. I mean, you can go to Yumkasaurs the moment you burst Yoimiya, because you can see we played 2 Glittering Gemstones, our Yumkasaurs already has 9 HP, it's perfectly fine to switch to Yumkasaurs at this point in the game. Of course you want to get the food engine up and running, and we are of course using cards like Harvest Time to get that late game damage from Tandoori Chicken and Adeptus and such cards. Of course it also gives us a little bit of extra healing. The only big expensive food cards we have in the deck are 2 copies of macarons and 2 the 3-cost food, Chaska specialty food thing. The Sing Your Heart Out. 2 copies of Sing Your Heart Out, because they are just good to have in a food deck with Yumkasaurs. And the game plan is very simple. You just shoot with Yoimiya, hope you get Yoimiya talent to do that extra bit of damage. When Yoimiya dies, go to Yelan, or if you really want to burst Yoimiya, go to Yelan early to tank a little bit of damage. Yoimiya gives you a bit of cards. Both Pyro and Hydro give reactions with Dendro, so there's no trouble with that. And of course, because the Bloom Core can be spent by Yumkasaur's burst, there's no trouble with that. And we are also using Fight for the Death just for the Yumkasaurs to have that even more HP at the end of the game. So yeah, that's the quick explanation. And the idea indeed is that round 1, round 2, you play cards like this. You see, Sweet Madame, whatever cheap food cards, even Mystic Soup, just go for Yelan or Yoimiya, play the Mystic Soup onto them. And let Yumkasaurs that just stack up max HP and the well-fed buff stacks.
Fire in the hole.
Yeah, and like there's nothing much else to it. The moment Yumkasaur has 10 or more HP, it's perfectly fine to let your Yoimiya and Yelan die and go to Yumkasaurs. Also, we are running one copy of course, one copy of Yumkasaur's talent, because we have a harvest time. That alone makes it good to have one copy of the talent card. And we are also actually using one Melusine card in this deck, instead of having two two Shudongs. Two Chef Mouse, one Shudong, one Melusine. Just to get a little bit of easier time getting, value from this talent card. And I think in these replays you actually get to see the Melusine is actually worth to have. Also here you get to see Fight for the Death. And surprise surprise, now our Yumkasaurus is quite tanky indeed. I'd say the one disadvantage this deck has, we have no dice fixing. When the time comes when you need to actually do the skill, usually when you have the burst, Yoimiya burst going on. When you have the Yoimiya burst, you almost every time you want to do the skill instead of a normal attack. And when you have bad dice, it becomes quite unfortunate to waste the potential damage you could do. And well, you can add dice fixes to this deck, just throw away 1 or 2 food cards. I have quite a many food cards in this deck because, well, it's a Yumkasaurus, of course I want to have food. But yeah, this first game was nothing too special. Once we get to the next one, I'll tell you more about the game plan. So, I did already describe the game plan of this deck, but let's go over it again. Round 1, you basically always want to begin with Yoimiya.
Let's go out and play.
It doesn't matter whether you do 1 attack, 2 attacks, just do the skill, do a normal attack, 1 or 2. Usually you don't get, because we have so many food cards and not that many, like for example this starting hand is extremely good. We have, actually in this deck, Flowing Rings, Strategize and Sing Your Heart Out, 2 copies of each, and those are the only cards that allow us to draw more cards from the deck. Of course Chef Mao and Dunyasard have like kind of draw power, but they are not exactly draw cards. They have just a little bit of extra benefit that allows us to get specific cards from the deck. But these 2 copies of each of these is all the draw power in this deck, which is why this starting hand is very good. Now also in this matchup our opponent is using Bond of Life, Alekino and Frost Operative, and by the way, playing this thing when the opponent has 0 things in the support field is very brave. I mean, in this case, these are the actually good ones. I have no weapons, so Master Shang is useless. I have only 0 cost artifacts, so this one is also useless to have. Not to mention, like, what is it, the Flame Summon is the only summon I can have on the field. And the opponent has no summons at all. So, But that was very brave from our opponent. And there you can see we are using one Mamere in the deck, just so that the Yumkasaur's talent gets a little bit of more value. It comes very useful late game. Early game, because you know, if you don't get the talent, you don't really get value from Mamere. But Mamere activates when you play a food card, and Mamere can give you a food card. So it's, in my opinion, I've had good experience having one copy of Mamere in the deck. So yeah.
The fuse is lit.
You hope to get Yoimiya's talent card simply so that you get a little bit of extra damage. And well, food card wise, you usually, in this case I took Minty Meat Rolls because I know next round I'm just going to sit on Yoimiya and do normal attacks. That's why I took Minty Meat Rolls. And because, you know, they are using Bond of Life, so healing Yoimiya is pointless. But usually you want to take, you know, from harvest time, you want to take healing cards or Adeptus. One of those two. Of course, Mystic Soup and Glittering Gemstones are like the really good ones to get. But everything that heals and everything that, well, Adeptus specifically, there's times when Dandori is fine to get, but you know, it's not that good always.
The night is cold.
So there you saw Mamere gave us an egg. Not really the best thing in this deck, because this is all about you just shoot with Yoimiya, with Yelan, and once they are dead you go to Yumkasaurus. Here I did a skill simply because Rana activation, we can use that. And I have no, you know, rush to get Yoimiya's burst, because I have the dice for it anyway.
It's time to pull the trigger.
And we end our round on Yelan, and we are ready to get a couple of cards from doing a normal attack, and of course we do a bunch of damage as well. So yeah, I think there's nothing really else to say about the deck. Like, yeah, early game just play the cheap food cards, save macaronis and such, and Glittering Gemstones, only play them on the Yumkasaurus. You want, I mean, there are scenarios where playing macarons onto Yoimiya or Yelan is fine, but most of the time you want to save them for Yumkasaurus to keep it alive.
Professor.
Other than that, yeah, there's really not, I mean, in matchups like these where there's Bond of Life on the field, you want to try to avoid Yumkasaurus getting Bond of Life, because that of course negates all healing you might get from the arcane, from these food cards that we rely on. Also, ideally, from round, I mean, it's not always possible, but try to play round 1 and round 2 specifically, because after that you usually have set up and so many cards that you certainly should have food cards in your hand. Round 1 and round 2, try to play 1 or 2 food cards. That is the what you want to do. Round 1 and 2, play food cards. Be it just Glittering Gemstones, which is good, be it just Sweet Madame onto Yelan or Yoimiya, or be it smoked chicken. Also, smoked chicken never really played on the Yumkasaurus, always with Yoimiya and Yelan. They are in this deck specifically for Yoimiya and Yelan. But yeah, save all of the healing cards except the Mystic Soup, which you can absolutely play with either of these characters, but save the other macaronis if you can for Yumkasaurus. Sweet Madame is perfectly fine to be played with Yoimiya and Yelan. There you can see I fished for the Chef Mao, just to get that extra benefit from playing food cards. Also there, specifically activating the ambush onto Yoimiya so that Yumkasaur isn't instantly frozen next round. Because we could have switched to Yumkasaur, then back to Yelan to tank the summon, but I saw the possibility to kill Frost Operative. And now Arachino must attack, cleanse the Cryo from Yumkasaur, and then the ambush does not freeze Yumkasaur. Also, one thing, I do not use Tada in this deck, and you already saw what arcane I'm using, so freezing Yumkasaur is bad for us. But of course we have so many food cards that we can heal from almost anything. Here you see we get the Adeptus, we take it. Because there is the Mirror Maiden, you know, Fatui Ambush is active, they might have another Cryo Resonance in hand, so there's a possibility of big damage. We play the Macaronis. Unfortunately for our opponent, they don't seem to really know how the Capitano Arcane works. It does not heal Arachino. Of course it does increase the max HP, but it does not instantaneously give those HP to Arachino. Anyway, on to the next one. Now, I would like to state about this deck. This is a decent deck. This is not a very good deck. Like overall. If you go against meta decks, if you go against players who know how to play the game and their deck very well, they can counter this deck. Because in the end, this is no Yelan variously. You are not always able to get Yoimiya's burst. You are not always able to dish out a bunch of damage with Yelan when the burst is active. You are not always able to get the cards you want for Yumkasaurus, you know, the food cards.
It's time to pull the trigger.
Here, of course, you know, avoiding Milo's, avoiding the Bloom reaction. And then this is what I was talking about, the simple game plan. Round 1, you just want to play the food cards. Like so. Because we want to get as many stacks on the Yumkasaurus as possible. We tuned the smoked chicken so that we can play the sweet madame whenever we feel like it, because you know both of our characters can actually take advantage of that. Of course, I could have also played the sweet madame last round to get more value, to get the maximum value of Yumkasaur's passive talent, but since there was the possibility I wouldn't get any food for this round, we played it early. They're playing the food on the Yoimiya simply so that the burst, you know, doesn't actually kill Yoimiya. And then, because of the dice, we don't want to tune, so we just go to Yelan to do a normal attack. Of course, this now means that they have an easier time of, well, now they have a guaranteed bloom coming. Since Yoimiya has full energy, we end our round on Yelan. This of course means that Yelan is now almost dead. But remembering we have the fight for the death, it's not that bad. At least we hope it's not. But yeah, this deck is very simple. You just feed Yoimiya, feed Yelan, feed Yumkasaurus, and hope that Yumkasaurus can clean up the game. There we go for the Yoimiya burst. Following it up with Yumkasaurus, of course, because there's no point staying on Yoimiya who has no skill active and who has already burst, or used the burst. I think in this game we were somewhat unfortunate with the cards. Like you can see we sacrifice Yoimiya here because that would have been a little too much damage on the Yumkasaurus. And this way we can also now play Fight for the Death. Here we get lucky, we get another Chef Mao or another companion card in general, because you saw that we played Chef Mao round 1, then got Dunyasaur, but no other companion card after that until now. Somewhat unfortunate, we could have gotten value from Dunyasaur earlier, but now we finally do get it. And here you see once again Mamere present. And here you can see, this is what I was talking about, having bad dice. Now I either have to tune 3 of my cards, hope that Mystic Soup gives me Providence, or hope that, well, there actually isn't any other options for me. I either have to tune or hope that Mystic Soup gives me Providence, so I don't need to tune as much. Of course, Chef Maos have yet activated, so there's the possibility of getting Dendro dice from there. Looking for Providence, unfortunately we do not get it. There I actually took the healing card because, well, I thought Yumkasaurus had more max HP than 11 at this point. I mean, I don't keep track how much max HP Yumkasaurus has. So I could have gotten more value from taking, you know, the protection, because you're not a bountiful gore, Needle talent, that's gonna be 3 damage. Now we only like got 1. Of course the passive talent healed us with another. Here we simply go for the normal attack, hoping to get some better cards to tune. Unfortunately I don't really want to tune any of these cards. We look for another Providence there, do not get it, so we got the max HP one. Then we look for another Mystic Soup, funnily enough, but instead of that we play Fight for the Death, so that next round we can heal all of that HP that the Bountiful Gore is going to take from us. And you can see here our cards are decent, but if we get bad dice again, it's gonna be real pain to deal with. And you can see we got 3 good dice, meaning that we are in quite a lot of trouble. Of course now there is no Bloom in play. I decide to take out Baisu here since I have the chance. Maybe not the best move. I should have, you know, fished for possible Adeptus with Harvest Time instead. You know, save the burst for, well, Oceanid. Because, you know, Nilu would have been taken out by a simple skill, of course.
Mirror the myriads.
But yes, I should have looked for a possible Adeptus, and at the very, I mean, there you see we got an Adeptus from Mamere. So that was a mistake. I should have just used a skill or a normal attack on Baisu instead of the burst. Because now we can no longer take out the Oceanid. For some reason, I think that egg was a bad move. I mean, you have Vanarana, you could have just saved the dice, but if our opponents wants to play the egg now, sure. There once again, looking for actually the 3 layers of protection, you know, -1 3 times. But do not get it, so once again max HP instead. Luckily the Macaronis is putting in some work. But you can see here now the burst from Ocean, it's actually going to be a rather big damage coming our way if the opponent decides to do that. Once again, dice wise, 2 usable dice, very unfortunate from me. Of course now we have some cards we can happily tune here. Tandoori chicken also, because, you know, not much point. This was surprising. I mean, I understand they are doing a lot of damage and whatnot, but spending all of their stuff right there was very surprising indeed. There we wanted to play the talent card to get more value from the playing the food cards, specifically that hot springs, even though we have no summons on the field. I decided to play it just for the talent card activation. And there you see we got another Adeptus, but it's a little too late for that. And you get to see this deck, not always the best one, especially when you make a couple misplays, but I mean, I don't think, I mean, maybe sniping, or if I was able to snipe Ocean, I could have won this match. But yeah, I'm indeed going to lose. Spoilers, indeed. But I mean, at this point, it should be obvious. But yeah, this is just to showcase the deck is not all powerful, but I simply wanted to do this because I entertained the idea before. I wanted to see if it was actually worth anything. I was actually quite surprised they didn't just go for, you know, a normal attack and then end your round kind of move. But I do, like, understand. They still know I have cards in the hand, I have Yumkasaurs, of course there's going to be food, so I would heal, but here we finally burst the Oceanid, but it's too late for that. And now they simply do a skill with Daisu to break the Lotus Crisp, and well, at this point there's nothing I can do anymore. They can just end their round, and that's gonna be a loss. But no matter, on to the next one. So now against another Frost Operative deck. This time they also have Yumkasaur, so there's some AoE action going on.
Are you going to hold a festival?
There I could have actually not kept Mamere, but I decided to keep Mamere since there's the slight possibility that from the strategize we would get Dunyasaur. And if we do not get Dunyasaur from that, we could play Mamere and a food card and hope we get some form of good setup from the random card Mamere gives us. So that's what I do here. Hoping to get something good from Mamere. We get Varanara, a decent card, but of course right now there's going to be no use for it, so I'm going to keep it in the hand. You know, if we get Yumkasaur's talent card here anytime soon, then saving it for that is going to be rather good for us. Now our opponent playing, what is it, Quick Knit, you know, to get a little bit more damage from the summons. In my opinion, perhaps not necessary. I mean, it's just one more damage and one more electro application on the field. You could have very well just the following round. You would anyway want to redo a skill with Yumkasaur, so why do it? Why do that? You could have saved the dice with your Vanarana anyway. But I mean, it's a decent move, I guess. But once again, because our deck, the only character we really want to heal is the Yumkasaurus. Like Sweet Madams, like mentioned, you can very well play on Yoimiya, same as with Mystic Soup, but most of the time you want to get Providence or Fury from Mystic Soup, and the Sweet Madam is just 1 HP. It's here simply for the 3 dice from Chef Mao, or the free activation of passive skill, and to keep these two alive a little longer, or in the late game to be a little bit of extra HP for Yumkasaurus. So yeah, you don't really need to fear AoE damage as long as you have some healing cards in hand. Glittering gemstones in specifically. Here our opponent, a nice move, you know, surfing body getting the Sakura activation so that Yoimiya gets sniped before the burst. Now of course luckily we have the arcane card in hand. If we did not have this we could be in real trouble here. Especially because they go Frost Operative. But now we can simply play the Fight for Death. Heal Yumkasaur, and of course we are going to be looking for some extra healing here. Taking in macaronis to get full value from Shudong. You can see here we are stacking up the stacks of Yumkasaur's passive skill here. Now this one, in my opinion, was not a great move. I understand, you know, wanting to switch off from Frost Operative since you can get the Bond of Life onto Yumkasaur, but going to Kokomi with Burst Up, not the greatest move in my opinion. I mean, of course, you see I have the dice, I can do a burst this round. Which actually I decided not to do. Why, you might wonder? Because we have the Bloom Core. Actually, this is Dendro Core. I'm hoping that next round they will fast swap with Catherine to Frost Operative and I can burst Frost Operative and snipe it. Because once again, I of course do not want any Bond of Life on the field. Also, if they now decide to stay on Kokomi and just do a normal attack, we still have enough damage to kill Kokomi here. Which is exactly what they decide to do. Of course now Frost Operative can freeze Yumkasaur, and like I mentioned, we have no freeze counters in this deck. So, to minimize the amount of Bond of Life from Frost Operative's passive skill, we are, you know, getting the damage reductions instead of something like Providence. And there goes Kokomi.
Must learn from my...
Now we still, you know,
Banquet must go on.
Frost Operative Burst, the Miko Burst combination is a lot of damage. Of course, the one positive thing here going for us is the fact that Miko's summon is about to run out, meaning there's going to be no follow-up to the burst. There also we took the Butter Grab 1, because Shudong gives full value when you play a 2-cost card, or 2 or higher cost card, and also so that the Frost Operative's possible burst will not give us as much Bond of Life. We get the talent card for Yumkasaur a little late, but since we have cards in hand that were not in my initial deck, that being the Butter Crab, there's no reason not to play it. Getting the Gamblers is also rather lucky of us, since Miko is in range to be sniped. That is by the Well-Fed and Strong buff. Because now our skill does 3 damage and the reaction damage on top of that, so it's 4. Here we have the Butter Crab just for the burst to give us less Bond of Life. They still do get some, of course, but only 1 stack easily healed. And from there, because there's still the possibility that they haven't played their arcane card, there's the possibility of Fight for Death, I decide not to go for, you know, a burst this round. And instead save some of my dice. Here we once again just clean up the Bond of Life so that this thing doesn't do damage to Yumkasaur. Also, the one thing, I'm using 2 copies of Harvest Time simply because with this deck you are using a lot of cards, and very often, if the game doesn't end by round 3, you are easily end up in a situation like this, where you ran out of cards. So you never, unless it's about winning the game, you never want to tune harvest time, you always want to just play them. And this is simply so that, well, when you get to the situation where you no longer have cards in your deck, you at least have the harvest time and your food engine will keep on running, and on to the next game. Now, for the last game, I think I'm just going to let the game run on the background. This is going to be actually a quick little update for this funny little hobby of a channel I've been running. Summer vacations are over, I no longer have as much time on my hands, so the uploads from this channel will be fewer. In total I probably will try to keep like one upload per week, at least for starters, but there will be less videos from me.
It's time to pull the
But at the
trigger.
very least I will try to keep the same style of videos coming. Also, if you happen to have watched, if you are one of the few people who have watched the Genshin TCG without the TCG video I uploaded, I will probably do a couple videos like that about Notcry. Just because, you know, once the update comes out, I'm not one of those people who first thing they do play the new TCG content. No. I'm gonna be playing Notcry, and it's going to be probably quite a while before, you know, I come back to TCG from playing all the new content. I mean, I will probably play almost everything, but at least the story quests and, you know, Lunar Quest, I think it's called, the version of Notcry's Archon quest. I'm gonna be playing most of those before I come back to TCG to do all the stuff. I will also, in the future, I've been avoiding with my channel, with the videos I make, I try to give showcase decks that others have not showcased. Sometimes I play decks that have been showcased by other people well before me. But I will probably, in the future, I will play more decks that are already showcased by other people. Because the one thing about TCG creators, many of us, myself included, since what else do I upload on this channel, many just, you know, slap a bunch of replays together, put on background music, and you just watch the video. I mean, I'm not blaming, that kind of content is nice to, like, you spend a couple of minutes watching that, but usually you don't really get into the essence, the game plan of the deck when it's not explained. Like, if you are not an experienced player, like I can perfectly fine watch any TCG video that is like that. There's no vocal explanation of what you need, what you want to do, or what the game plan is. Because, you know, it always changes depending on the scenarios. Like, for example, in the start of this match, I switched to Yelan simply to avoid one swirl. But, you know, many people don't do that, and I want to keep doing that. That's my whole thing. The one thing I was adamant about when making my first few videos, I wanted to, well, at first I entertained the idea of not using my voice on this channel. Simply just using text boxes to explain why I do certain things, and I think in my very early videos I've tried to do that, but I quickly came to the conclusion subtitling a whole video with, you know, a bunch of thoughts of what you want to do, what is the game plan, it's not fun. for me to make for people to watch. There's too much reading. You either just read what is written on the screen and don't follow the game, or you follow the game and don't read.
Shadows of fate.
So, you know, there was no point. So instead I quickly came to the realization I'm just going to use my voice to explain the things, because it's much easier. And this way you can just follow the game while I'll talk. But yeah, I'll keep the similar content going up in the future, using my voice to explain the things. And in the future I'll be using decks that other people have already showcased. If I feel like, for example, if something like Mawika skill for people who like don't really actively play TCG, it can be really hard to understand what all is going on with the Mawika skill, the different combos you can do. So, I mean, in my videos, I don't know if there's a viewer among the few who watch this video, if there's someone out there who has noticed this, but in my videos I actually went for the kind of plan where I kind of showcase one technique from Mawika at a time. You know, my first Mawika video that included Mawika was the Mawika Sidlali Chaska deck, where we only really used the 3-cost bike from Mawika. Then I had the, Sidlali Mawika carried by series, where we had Moalani, and in that video we used the 2-cost bike. Now for the 1-cost bike there isn't that many decks that came to mind where you use it. So there, I don't really have a video where I specifically always pick the 1-cost bike, but you know, similar to that. So if you happen to have watched all of those, or both of those two videos, you kind of got the idea of, the 3-cost bike does all of this and the 2-cost bike does all of this. So yeah, I'll
Out of my way.
I'll probably try to keep up similar stuff where I explain things in pieces, and it's disguised that, you know, as the game plan being different. But yeah, so yeah, this is all just a quick little update about the state of the channel. Because this is so massively big and I have such a massive following here. You all must be wondering what will happen and what is the future of all of this.
Sorry for the trouble.
But yeah, that's about that. You can already probably guess where this game is going. There's no way I'm going to lose. But yeah, with this video I entertained the idea in the past, and this was me following up that idea. You can absolutely use Yumkasaur as the late game carry. You could actually, if I were to compare this to something, you could almost compare it to Whale deck. You know, Whale deck, you start with your other characters and you don't go to Whale, but when you have that, like, 9 extra HP, or you need to freeze the opponent's character, at that point you only go to Whale. But like the freeze is situational, most of the time you wait until you have like +9 max HP and then you go to the Whale. But yeah, anyway, a little update about the future and a nice little deck to end this patch on. By the way, I heard Yumkasaur is going to get buffed, so maybe we'll see a part 3 of Yumkasaur's adventures. But that will be all for today, and I'll see you all next time.